Ethan is imprisoned in a Russian jail for committing murder. However, IMF has an urgent mission, so Benji and Carter are sent to rescue him. Benji hacks into the prison system and opens all the cell doors, causing chaos in the prison. Upon hearing the signal, Ethan brings along a fellow inmate and heads to the designated location. Agent Carter clears the path for them through the sewers, and they successfully escape. This rescue mission is for a secret task. Earlier, Carter, Benji, and Agent Harvey worked together to intercept a top-secret file. After successfully obtaining the file, Harvey was ambushed by another group. Before Benji and Carter could come to his aid, Harvey was killed by a female assassin, Moreau, and the file was stolen. The stolen file contained Russia's nuclear launch codes. Upon hearing this, Ethan realized the gravity of the situation. According to IMF's intel, there is a man codenamed Cobalt, an extremist obsessed with nuclear weapons. His goal is to detonate a nuclear bomb at any cost. The team arrives at a secret phone booth, where IMF gives Ethan a new mission, to disguise himself as a Russian officer and infiltrate the Kremlin archives to uncover Cobalt's true identity. After receiving the mission, as usual, the message was supposed to self-destruct in 5 seconds. But after waiting for a while, nothing happened, so Ethan manually blew it up. The mission begins. Carter uses a helium balloon to deploy a device that disrupts the guards, allowing Ethan and Benji to sneak past them. Once they reach the archive room, they set up an invisible screen to fool the guards and proceed slowly. The invisible screen likely works by using a tablet to model a 3D background and, through a camera, dynamically capture the observer's eyes, simulating the perspective of the objects they see. This creates the illusion of invisibility. At one point, while Benji was checking the rendering progress, they almost got caught. Once the rendering was complete, Ethan entered the archive room but could not find Cobalt's file. At that moment, an unfamiliar voice broke into their communication channel, alerting the guards. It seemed someone knew about their mission and intended to frame them. Ethan ordered the mission to be aborted and for everyone to retreat. As the guards gathered at the screen, the camera failed to track properly due to the crowd, and the screen started flickering. Ethan kept calm and escaped through a secret passage, changed clothes, and prepared to leave quietly. At that moment, he noticed a man with a suspicious briefcase and decided to follow him. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the Kremlin, and Ethan was knocked unconscious. When he awoke, Ethan found himself handcuffed to a hospital bed. A Russian agent, Sidorov, found their passage records in the archive room and accused Ethan of being the mastermind behind the Kremlin bombing. Ethan realized he was in serious trouble. While Sidorov was distracted, Ethan made his way to the window, intending to jump out. Sidorov noticed but believed Ethan wouldn't dare jump because of the height. Just then, a truck passed by, and Ethan jumped, using the truck as a platform to land safely. Sidorov gave chase, but Ethan escaped, changed into different clothes, and found his superior, the foreign minister. From their conversation with Chief Brandt, Ethan learned that the man he encountered at the Kremlin was Cobalt. Ethan quickly realized that Cobalt had taken the nuclear launch device, and the assassin Moreau had the launch codes. If they joined forces, it could lead to nuclear war. Ethan urged the minister to warn Russia in advance to prevent the crisis. But the minister believed Russia wouldn't trust them and would assume the US was responsible for the Kremlin bombing, pointing all blame towards the US intelligence agency, IMF. The president had already signed the Ghost Protocol, making IMF a non-existent organization. The Ghost Protocol essentially made IMF a scapegoat, leaving them without protection or support from the US government. The minister was ordered to bring Ethan back to the US and frame him as an extremist terrorist to appease Russia. However, the minister couldn't bring himself to do it. He subtly encouraged Ethan to use whatever resources he had to investigate the matter and handed him a secret file. At that moment, their vehicle was attacked by Russian forces, killing the minister and the driver. The car flipped into the river. Ethan and Brandt tried to swim ashore but came under heavy fire. Ethan, suspecting a trap, planted a flare on the dead driver to draw the enemy's fire. Ethan and Brandt seized the opportunity to escape and regrouped at a secret base with Benji and Carter. From the minister's file, they learned that Cobalt was a nuclear fanatic who dreamed of destroying the current world order with nuclear bombs to create a new one. He believed that only by resetting the world with nuclear weapons could humanity achieve true peace. Isn't that insane? According to their intel, the assassin Moreau would soon arrive at the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, where Cobalt's henchman Wiestrom planned to trade diamonds for the launch codes. If the deal succeeded, the world would face a nuclear apocalypse. Their mission was to stop the deal, switch the codes, and follow Wiestrom to track down Cobalt and arrest him. But since the president had signed the Ghost Protocol, they wouldn't receive any equipment or support. They had to handle everything themselves. If they failed, they would be branded as terrorists. After much deliberation, the team decided to take on the mission willingly. Afterwards, they set off for Dubai. According to the plan, Agent Carter pretends to be the assassin Moreau and meets the real Wiestrom. Meanwhile, Benji pretends to be Wiestrom, and Brandt acts as an assistant to meet the real Moreau to switch the code documents. To successfully complete the mission, they must first take control of the elevators and surveillance cameras to make the enemy believe that they are entering the prearranged room. However, Benji discovers that the firewalls in the server room are military grade, and hacking through them will take a long time. While Wiestrom is about to arrive, the best way is to directly plug a computer interface into the server room, allowing them to quickly hack the system and control the elevators and cameras. However, the ventilation system has pressure sensors, and the elevators have infrared detection, making it impossible to sneak into the server room from those routes. The only way is to enter from the outside of the building. Time is running out. Seeing that Benji and Brandt are silent, Ethan decides to go himself. Benji throws Ethan a pair of gecko gloves, which will allow him to climb on the glass. Ethan puts on the gear and begins the mission. After reaching the target floor, he prepares to cut through the glass, but the equipment malfunctions, and Ethan almost falls, but narrowly avoids disaster. After smashing the glass to enter the server room, he plugs in the interface, allowing Benji to gain control and change the room numbers. At this moment, Brandt notices that Moreau has entered the elevator. In a panic, Ethan jumps outside using a rope and runs along the building's wall. However, the rope is too short to reach the room. Ethan quickly thinks on his feet and uses his physics knowledge once again. Ethan cut the rope as he approached the window, almost fell off. Brandt held Ethan close, and saved him with difficulty. Brandt puts on contact lenses equipped with a camera, allowing him to print out what he sees. Carter puts the printer in the switched suitcase so Brandt can print the scrambled code document based on the one he sees, successfully swapping the codes. Everything is set, but Wiestrom arrives at the Burj Khalifa with a code verifier. Brandt realizes this is bad news. If the verifier detects the wrong code, the whole plan will fail. In the midst of chaos, Ethan suggests a bold move. Benji should reprogram the contact lenses to give Wiestrom the real codes and then track him to find Cobalt. Brandt strongly objects, as it is too risky. At this moment, the face mask printer fails, making matters even worse. Without equipment support from headquarters, they have no choice but to improvise. Ethan decides to take the risk and proceed without the mask, betting that they haven't seen each other before. There is no other option, so Benji's long-held desire to use a mask is dashed once again, as Ethan predicted. They hadn't met before. Ethan, under the pretext of verifying the codes, has Moreau hand the document over to Brandt. Brandt uses the hidden camera in his contact lens to transmit the document to Carter's suitcase. Wiestrom, after producing the diamonds, prepares to verify the codes. At that moment, Benji, disguised as a waiter, steals the diamonds and delivers them to Ethan's room. After Brandt finishes transmitting the files, Wiestrom opens the suitcase. Once the verifier confirms the codes, Wiestrom quickly leaves, shooting the verifier before departing. Meanwhile, Moreau discovers Brandt's glasses. In the chaos, Ethan and Brandt team up to fight Moreau's henchmen. Moreau tries to escape, but Carter, hearing the commotion, rushes to stop him. The document they printed earlier is coated with a special material that allows them to track from a short distance. After finishing his business, Ethan uses the tracking information to pursue Wiestrom. Unexpectedly, Sidorov intercepts him, attempting to capture him and take him back to Russia. With Wiestrom about to escape, Ethan knocks out Sidorov and his men without explaining, continuing the chase. Meanwhile, Moreau attempts to flee, but Carter, harboring resentment towards him for personally killing her beloved Agent Harvey, stops him. After a fierce struggle, Carter accidentally kicks Moreau off the building. During Ethan's pursuit, a sandstorm suddenly erupts. Ethan jumps onto the roof of Wiestrom's car. Ethan commandeers another vehicle and continues the chase, following the signal and crashing into the fleeing vehicle. Wiestrom escapes onto another car, tearing off his mask, revealing that he is actually Cobalt. After the mission failed, Ethan suspected there was a traitor in the team, based on past experiences, so he decided to test Brandt, who had joined later. Sure enough, Brandt wasn't just an analyst, he was an agent, but his goal was the same as Ethan's, to prevent a nuclear war. Ethan secretly contacted his informant and set off alone to meet them. After Ethan left, Brandt revealed his true identity to Carter and Benji. He was once assigned to Croatia to secretly protect the couple. One day, he learned that someone planned to kill them, but due to orders from his superiors, he couldn't warn them. As a result, the wife was killed and disfigured. Seeing this, Brandt was filled with guilt and decided to stop working in the field until he met Ethan and realized that Ethan was the husband of the woman who had died. It was her death that led Ethan to brutally kill the foreign assassins responsible, which eventually landed him in a Russian prison. The person Ethan secretly contacted was Bogdan. Bogdan was the same person Ethan had rescued from prison at the beginning. Bogdan's cousin was an arms dealer who knew Cobalt's associates well, so Ethan explained the nuclear missile situation to him. The arms dealer realized the severity of the situation and told Ethan that Russia had secretly sold an obsolete military satellite to Mumbai. The buyer was an Indian media mogul named Brij Nath. He implied that Cobalt might use this satellite to launch the missile, and to stop him, they would need to shut down the satellite in advance. With this intel, Ethan led the team to India. Shortly after they set off, the arms dealer tipped off Sidorov about their movements. After arriving in Mumbai, Ethan and the team began planning their mission. To shut down the satellite, they would need access to the ground-based server system, but only Bridge Nath knew the satellite's access codes. Carter was tasked with seducing Bridge Nath to get the codes, while Brant, wearing a special metal suit, worked with Benji to take control of the servers. Once they had the satellite access codes, they would shut down the satellite, and the mission would begin. Brant, who had a fear of heights, hesitated to jump into the ventilation shaft, but with Ethan's urging, he reluctantly made the jump. Benji hacked into the system and shut down the cooling vents. Using a magnetic cart, Brant was sent to the central server, and everything was ready except for entering the codes. Meanwhile, Carter used some psychological tricks on Bridge Nath, who took the bait. However, Bridge Nath began playing mind games of his own, which frustrated Carter. She quickly knocked him out and got the code, but before Brant could finish entering the code, the server malfunctioned, disconnecting the satellite. The cooling vents reopened, and it turned out that Cobalt had entered a TV station and used a virus to sever the connection between the ground server and the satellite. Benji tracked Cobalt's location through the signal, and Ethan and Carter set off for the TV station. Back at the cooling vents, the blade started spinning rapidly, putting Brant in danger. Benji increased the wind speed to maximum, and Brant used the wind and magnetic forces to jump back up. Cobalt instructed Wiestrom to activate the satellite's military parameters and upload a new authorization code, cutting off communication with the submarine. This prevented the submarine's officers from directly contacting Russia's Central Command. Once everything was ready, Cobalt ordered the missile to be launched. At this point, Ethan and his team were stuck in traffic. Hearing that the missile had already been launched, they realized their only chance was to reach the missile launch console in time to stop the explosion. Cobalt, seeing Ethan and the others closing in, ordered his men to destroy the servers. Carter tried to stop them but was shot. Benji and Brant arrived to help. Just as Wiestrom cut the power, to deactivate the missile, they had to break the code on the server and pressed the abort button. So Brant worked on restoring the power while Benji started repairing the server. Ethan chased Cobalt alone and confronted him in a parking garage. They fought over the missile control box, which slipped out of their hands and landed near Ethan. Suddenly, Cobalt appeared and tried to seize the box. Without hesitation, Ethan broke his arm. However, Cobalt kicked the box under a car, and they fought underneath the vehicle. Cobalt then pushed the box off the building, where it landed on a moving platform. Seeing the platform rise, Ethan quickly rushed towards it. Cobalt grabbed the box and jumped off the platform, taking it with him. Ethan, unwilling to give up, jumped into a car and drove down to the lower level. Meanwhile, Brant was about to restore the power. Just then, Wiestrom appeared, and the two engaged in a fight. When Ethan came to, he found the missile control box and pressed the abort button. But nothing happened because Brant hadn't restored the power yet. After fixing the server, Benji went to assist Brant and shot Wiestrom dead. Brant immediately restored the power, and Carter inserted the hard drive into the main server. Ethan repeatedly pressed the abort button, and finally, at the last second, the missile was deactivated. It lost power and fell into the sea. The crisis was averted. Sidorov then found Ethan and realized he wasn't a terrorist. It turned out that Ethan had arranged for the arms dealer to tip off Sidorov so he could be captured, proving his innocence. After the mission was successful, many people had seen something fall into the sea, so to ease their suspicions, Luther helped create fake news to mislead the public. Brant also confessed his guilt to Ethan, explaining how he had failed to protect Ethan's wife. At that moment, Ethan revealed the truth to him. In fact, his wife Julia wasn't dead. The operation was a ruse to protect Julia by faking her death. Ethan voluntarily went to prison to gather intel on Cobalt. The man he met in prison, Bogdan, was his informant. Through the arms dealer, Ethan obtained information about the satellite. After hearing this, Brant was relieved and agreed to join Ethan's team. Ethan watched Julia from a distance, knowing that for her safety, he had to stay away, as even more dangerous missions awaited him.